Hello and welcome again to Living and Active. We're going to see how this works. I don't know if it will. I started a couple years ago on one of the previous iterations of Living and Active as a channel using those earbud things with the built-in microphone when I record because I was having problems with getting clarity of audio. And I don't know if the reason why all of my recorded and uploaded videos are so quiet is because that was a mistake. But I'm going to, just for old time's sake, record without the benefit of the inline microphone earbuds. So there's no pickup, there's no microphone, there's no nothing. It's just me talking and showing you what I'm doing, and we'll see if it works. If you don't get any audio, then you'll probably hopefully, at least get a cool video of me doing stuff. Anyway, the sewing machine in front of you is a 1946 Singer 15-91. During my previously mentioned year of working on vintage and antique heritage quality sewing machines, I came across this particular one in a thrift store. Had my eye on it for a long time. I paid a pretty decent amount of money for it, but when I got it, all of the electrical was bad. All of the connections were, a lot of wiring was exposed. Most of the insulation was dry rotted, corrupted, cracked. It was just in bad shape. So the first thing I did with the unit before I actually did anything else with it was knock some of this dust off of it, was take all of the electrical components out of it. I stripped all of the electric out of it. One fell swoop, put all of the electric in a bag, threw the bag in the trash. And then I tried a couple different times to find a hand crank system that would work, and I haven't yet. I have this one mounted. I got this from Etsy. I got this. I tried one, and when I mounted it, everything looked like it was fine, but the clutch plate wouldn't engage because the retaining screw, or the retention screw, whatever you want to call it, was too short. So it wouldn't match up with the mechanism on the actual clutch to, I'm just knocking stuff everywhere, to engage the needle and actually have it. So I took that off. This is the original hand wheel that was on it, and you're going to see it again. So I took that off and I ordered a new hand wheel, and I ordered a hand crank system because I will accomplish at some point, through various trials and errors, I suppose, I will succeed in getting a sewing machine like this, of this vintage. And here, just so you can see it from a better angle, there she is in all of her beauty, and she is a beautiful machine. She's not very ornate like some of them are, but even just as very plainly spoken. The most ornate thing on it is the hand crank from China, which is not original to the machine, but it's a very stately machine. I like it a lot. There's not a lot of wear on the decals or anything. The finish is in excellent condition. The cabinet that it's in is a little beat up, but it is original to the machine. It even has a drawer with stuff and the original accessory kit, which is more or less complete. But the one thing I don't want to do, I have instruments right? Like I have instruments in my living space. As much as I love instruments, I have instruments in my living space that I'm perfectly fine with keeping as display items because they're cool, they look interesting, and they speak back to cultures that are interesting to me. What I don't want to do is have display sewing machines. These things are meant to be used. I bought them to be used. Uh, and so what I'm currently dealing with is, once again, I can't get the clutch plate to actively engage with the clutch enough to turn or to move the needle, which is what I was going to show you, I think, to move the needle when I actually turn the crank. So this machine, this sewing machine, does not sew. And I'm not happy with that. So as you can see, I have the handle engaged. It looks really nice and cool and very like industrial. But the problem here is that turning the crank does not make the needle go up and down. So what I did was I have actually ordered a replacement, and I hope it works, a replacement motor and pedal and power supply that I'm going to install on this thing, and I'm going to save the hand crank for just in case I come across another machine of this age, and I'll install the hand crank, one without a stand, like one that's got a base instead of like a cabinet, a desk. So instead of a table, it would be like a portable thing I could carry around and actually sew remotely, I suppose, with the hand crank instead of having to rely on a power source. But this one, so it doesn't go to waste, is going to be made into, Lord willing, it's going to be made into a powered machine, and then I'm going to start using it. So basically, the moral of that long introduction was I have never, ever successfully sewn a single stitch on this machine. And I'm going to see if I can fix that today. So I have my handy, my handy vintage sewing machine toolkit. And let's get at it. First thing I gotta just do is remember, if possible, how exactly I actually installed this thing. So I'm going to guess. Well, actually, the first thing I need to do is move some of this stuff out of the way of my hands. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm taking out this Phillips head. You cannot see that because my hand's in the way, or just because the camera angle's bad. Well, I may have done the wrong thing. Let's see. Yep, I think I did the wrong thing. There we go. That would have been the right thing to do. Now I have to put this screw back in because it has been... When did I do this? I think it was September, the last time I messed with this. And so, yeah, I did the wrong thing. So now hopefully I didn't mess up the alignment and the tension on the crank assembly and have a problem now all of a sudden trying to get this back in. So let's find out. Let's see if I messed up real bad or just kind of bad. So because it's what I do on this channel, while I'm doing the thing, I'm going to say some things too. Some of you, if you've been following the videos for any length of time whatsoever, especially this year so far, with some historical evidence, if you've seen any of the other Living and Active channels, you'll know that I have just the worst time ever settling in on being content in the fact that God has said that His grace is sufficient for me. It's not that I don't believe that God's grace is sufficient for me. It's just really hard, difficult, to retain that thought in a practical way, especially as a currently quadriplegic, formerly very active, very strong, adult man who took seriously even when I wasn't taking scripture seriously or following the Lord at all, I took very seriously that I was supposed to be strong, that I was supposed to be doing certain things that a man should do, like having work, like being good at work, like being strong. And then going from that to all of a sudden, I don't even stand up to go to the bathroom and brush my teeth or anything. I don't stand anymore. And even just the simple basic things of being a man, so to speak, are beyond me. So I've tried many things, trying to do whatever it is I can think of to, quote unquote, earn my right to live as a man with a clear conscience before the Lord, doing all that I can to not be simply a consumer or a recipient of whatever. So I've tried music, I've tried teaching, I've tried all kinds of other stuff on this side of the wheelchair. I've tried getting involved in all kinds of things or whatever, even on a volunteer basis, and none of it really seems to be panning out. And what I had said at the beginning of this year was that if anyone were to wonder what sort of New Year's resolution I might have, the closest thing I'd say is just accepting the answers that I've gotten from the last year or two about the way things are supposed to be and going with that. And immediately after I had said that at the beginning of the year, I ended up finding out that I had to move. And I moved. And then immediately after I had said before the Lord that I was going to now settle into finding out what He wanted from me, I ended up getting into a very foolish relationship. And now it's been a little over a month since that disintegrated. So over the last few weeks, what I've been doing is setting back, slowing down my thinking and everything else, and trying to get back into what I already had established, what I'd already known the Lord had given me the ability and allowed me to retain the ability to do. And that's sewing, small projects. That's I got rid of my large scale painting capabilities and the things that I would need for that, but I did retain some materials that I can sketch or do little tiny paintings with. I stopped trying to make my apartment comfortable for multiple guests or whatever else, and brought it back down to what I actually need as a quadriplegic, with some other things going on, so that I can, inside my living space, actually be content, and and all of that stuff. And so what I've come to is just the realization that I'm very well might be in a season where the Lord has brought me to that wide place to establish me, and He's literally telling me He's put me inside of a sheltered reality where it is His expectation that I just kind of go about my business, live quietly and peaceably, eating my own bread, and all these things, and not really worrying about whatever because, you know, we're told not to worry. We're told God has us in His hands and that He is always going to be good for us and to us. We don't have to worry about anything, even when famine strikes. So, me personally, I'm just going to get over myself a little bit, and I'm just going to just keep doing the things that I enjoy doing, that are productive, that are creative. And that'll be that. So part of that is I'm actually putting all of my machines. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. All of my machines, hopefully, after this little project, will be operational, and I'll start putting them to use. I've actually moved a lot of the things around in my apartment so that I can do this inside this room, which makes me grateful for the new apartment that I came into unexpectedly. And here's a cool idea. I don't know if you guys like cool ideas for stuff to do for just like your own space. That's an actual pocket, by the way. That's an actual pocket cut from a pair of corduroy pants with the Model's New Machine tag sewn into it. Cut off the pair of pants, tacked onto a couple different types of fabric just to test that machine over there when I first decided to put it back into use. And now here it sits and it holds things. That's another little pocket that I made with this machine right here. And here's some like little fabric scraps. There's a little card that I got when I ordered a CD from the Presley Girls. If you don't know them, I'll put a link to their YouTube channel in the description box below. But here's like a little composite applique that I haven't put on anything yet. Here's just some fabric cutoffs that I just kind of arranged to hang from this piece of foam, which I tacked to the wall specifically to do that kind of thing, like hang little fabric scraps from, to keep ideas going and try to refresh things. So I have to currently, now that I've explained all that and given you a little video tour of the sewing room / recovery room / well, that's what it is. It's a sewing and recovery room / office. But I'm going to let you enjoy an oblique view of the digital aquarium that's playing on the far side of your screen. For a few minutes, I have to go get a couple other tools, and I will be, well, after I get a drink of coffee, and I will be back very shortly. And I'm actually going to take the hand crank off and start attaching and installing the motor. So enjoy. I'll be back with you shortly. So part of this rediscovery is figuring out what I have been making do with in my lack over the last couple of years, and what I actually need to, now that I can, properly equip myself with for the sake of doing these things that I felt before the Lord that I'm going to do, accountable to Him to do all things that I find for my hands to do as unto the Lord, which means giving due diligence and stewardship to doing all I can that is within my half a hands that I have to be successful, to be proficient, to be skillful with what I do. One of those things has been rethinking how I go about storing and carrying my tools, and indeed the number and kinds of tools that I keep in my possession. A special guest appearance by the cool non-biker vest. But I found this thing. This is a Black & Decker tote toolbox stackable type of thing. There's 3 different layers, as you can see. The layers detach very easily. I just push this down. Once I hear the click, I can lift up and separate these 2 components. Push it back down and it locks. But the main thing here is that I can actually, this might be awkward because I'm used to doing this with the ability to use both hands to steer, but I can actually manage this pretty much like I would a shopping cart from the wheelchair, get it to where I need it to go and be, and get set up. And so I have that. I've added that to, I have 2 different workstations now here. I guess 4 if you count the individual sewing stations. But I have different workstations here throughout my current apartment, and I can take these tools back and forth between them and really truly save myself a lot of struggle, heartache, and hassle, and a lot of wear and tear and fatigue. Getting my tools to where I might need them to be just in case I don't do a good job of understanding every single tool that I need for any given situation with one trip. And not having to go back and forth constantly to say, oh, I forgot that I need this tool, is indeed a blessing. So let me see. What I'm looking for is, I guess, this will work. There's a screw right there that mounts that whole assembly, or the hand crank part of the assembly anyway, onto the structure of the machine. I'm going to put you here so you can get an extreme close up. Here, let's do this. I'll let you look at that cool shot for a little bit while I take this screw off. That wasn't as bad. I guess getting a little bit of leverage makes all the difference. Getting the right vantage point to what you're trying to do probably pretty important, especially if you're working from a position where your leverage is reduced. which, by the way, does have a severe effect on the available strength you have to actually do pretty much anything. Now, I am hopeful, prayerful, that I'm going to be able to mount this motor securely to the back of the machine. There you see it without the hand crank. Because the mount for the hand crank is curved. Where it goes into the machine, it's tabbed. It's not really curved, it's tabbed. There's a tab here, which would make sense, that matches it. Let's do this. There's a tab here. The bracket that's on the actual motor does not have a tab. It's flat, so hopefully that's not going to cause a problem. But the next thing I need to do is I need to release this clutch plate here. This is what lets you change back and forth between regular sewing and bobbin winding. Oh, I'm glad that didn't stick. I was really worried I was going to end up stripping out that head, which would have been massively inconvenient because I don't have a replacement screw for this. So what I'm going to do, I'm probably not going to record this whole thing because it would get very boring and very long very quickly. I am going to have to soak many of these components in oil before I go to reassembly. So I will post in the Posts tab, formerly known the Community tab, the after of this little project. I'll let you see, or I might do a short and let you see that it's working. But yeah, I am going to have to, I believe, do a little bit of maintenance on the clutch. This is the clutch, by the way. Clutch plate. I might try to keep this hand wheel on just because it looks cooler than the original, which again is this. But I may also no, I can do it. So I'm going to clean everything up. Thanks for watching the video. Sorry if it was boring or whatever, but it is what it is. We have what we have, and that's about it. So until next time, if there's a next time, God be with you. Remember Hebrews 11:6. Without faith it is impossible to please God, because those who come to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him.